Hello everybody, Mark Schaftlein here, and this is the Schaftlein Report, Wednesday's edition. Happy to have my good friend and Emmy Award-winning writer, director, producer, all-around television celebrity, Joe Visconti, back on the Schaftlein Report. Hey Joe, happy to have you with me in this holiday season.
Glad to be here. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Hey, we're broadcasting from beautiful Irvine, California and beautiful Hartford, Connecticut today. Joe, the Democratic Party, and I see that big grin on your face for all our viewers out there and those listening to podcasts. Joe's got a big grin on his face. The Democrats are really reeling, and the fallout from the Build Back Better fiasco collapse is really starting to hit them, and they're none too happy about it. Give me your take on what's going on with this, and where do we go from here?
Build Back Bankrupt, that's what it is. This is the failed attempt of the left. Everyone knows it. It's Mark, we've been beating this dead horse, and we got to keep beating the dead horse. You can't stop. That's what they wait for us to get fatigued. The reality is we had a great economy going, and the left. Mark, I think the Obama administration and the Clinton administration players are all gone. They don't have anyone in the administration, no one in the White House. There's Rhodes Scholars that don't have any experience. The policies, they don't even have enough shame to realize, because they get the cover of the media, that what they do is collapsing the economy. The inflation, we're going to talk about all these things. That is the killer. It's not going away. It's not going to go away. And it's really something that all Americans are petrified. Everyone I'm talking to, they're more afraid of inflation than COVID right now.
Oh yeah, I think you're right about that, because the Omicron variant, while the media keeps playing it up, and obviously it's contagious, but even people from, Jim Cramer, who talked about it, symptoms very mild. I don't sense the American people seem very worried about Omicron to anywhere near the level the media and the Democrats are looking to push that narrative.
Yeah, I contracted that last week. First time I got COVID in 2 years. I must have picked it up in Miami, and light symptoms, got my medications. I don't have vaccines, but I'm 65, healthy. I think if you're healthy and you don't have heart conditions, asthma, and comorbidities, then you really will be able to shake this okay. But again, everyone who does have comorbidities, overweight, very overweight, all those people that we can never stop that getting healthy. And so I think really that's the defining line that a lot of Americans are realizing. If you're sickly, if you're elderly, if you have these problems, any of these things could kill you. Yep. I think the logic is starting to happen where Americans are realizing that they're gonna have to tackle it. We won't have a country left if they don't come up, if they don't stay.
Yeah, well, the Biden administration is focusing on it, rightly or wrongly. They're talking about sending out 500,000 test kits. I'm not certain how good that is, but I'll give them an A for effort here on this one. I mean, I don't see any harm in it.
We don't know they work. I did my test kit, doctors, and I came back negative last Wednesday. I did the PCR at the same time. I didn't trust it. They told me, do not trust a negative. Only trust a rapid test positive. So I was told by the doctor. Sure enough, 2 days later, they said in the email, you've contracted. So there I was out 2 days walking around thinking I was negative. People are there's no testing. In Connecticut, you're waiting in line around blocks for days. It's really bad in the Northeast. People want to get on planes. Now, the problem is if you get these rapid tests, they're telling us 68% of them on the negative don't work. If it's a positive, they can consider that. So I'm a little leery of these homemade tests are coming in. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, but me too.
A lot of false sense of security. We just got to really be careful. Yeah. People have to know their body, stay healthy, eat, drink.
There'll be a lot of people eating and drinking over the holidays. That's for sure.
Well, that was the Fauci just that I blasted on Facebook. Don't celebrate Christmas. Biden and Fauci do not celebrate Christmas. Come on.
Oh, come on. No Americans are going to listen to that garbage. Hey, listen, let me ask you this, though. What do you think about these Democratic reactions? I mean, Schumer comes out, and under severe pressure from the left wing of the party, he's now saying, well, we're going to have a vote after the first of the year on Build Back Better, just so we can put Joe Manchin on the record. And I'm sitting there saying, why would you be such a fool to do something like that? Manchin's already told you he's going to vote against it. And yet, Joe Visconti, I watched some of the cable stuff just so our audience doesn't have to. I'm watching some of those MSNBC, DNC people. They're still giving false hope to their audience that Build Back Better is going to pass in January when they're actually have a vote. This to me is insane. Why would someone with the experience of Schumer do something so stupid?
Because he doesn't have to worry about the debt ceiling. Mitch McConnell gave him another pass again, and I don't want to talk about that right now, but he did. So that's off the table for them to have to worry about it, so they can braggart, be what they are, in-your-face liars. And at the end of the day, I do believe they will come back with a couple packages, which they should. They just had to appease their violent left, their angry, rabid left. But America does need true transportation. We need these things, but the way they delivered it, they've got to give up on it. And so I think that's just a slap in the face to Manchin, to anybody. It's a reaction for the wild left. The Democrats have to forget about the left, because the left it's going to take them down this year anyway. But they're still playing the old song,
Well, after this Build Back Better collapses, Schumer's going to have the vote on it. They'll probably try to piecemeal little things together. Little things, nothing's little anymore. But they'll probably take bits and pieces of the bill, skinny it down, break it up into 3, 4, 5 different bills, try to get Manchin to support some of them. We'll see where that goes. What's really concerning me a little bit, though, is this reaction of the radical hardcore left and the violent left, as you call them. Elizabeth Warren comes out after Build Back Better fails, says, well, this is indicative of where we are. The minority's governing the majority. We need to pack the Supreme Court. AOC comes out and says, this is a threat to democracy. Well, you dumbass AOC, it wasn't a threat to democracy. Hell, 51 senators said no, maybe 52, 48 to 49 yes. It's a perfect example, Joe Visconti, of how democracy works in this country.
Well, you've got it on your list of things we're talking about. The 21% strongly approve of Biden only. That's it. Those people are definitely Kool-Aid drinkers. So he's really, really below the threshold of anything. And so in lack of having support, it's having the media on their side, as everyone listening knows. They can just say anything and get away with it. Just say it, print it on all the outlets, Daily Beast, The Atlantic, wherever, say the same sounding sound bites and make them believe whatever they say, even if it's not true. They've been doing this for years. They're doing it. They're going to increase it because they have no other game.
Right.
But the public knows. The public knows. There isn't anybody who doesn't know. The 21% Kool-Aid drinkers, they don't matter.
Right. No, they don't matter. What do you make of Schumer's effort now after the first of the year to pivot to, quote, voting rights? I mean, Joe, you're a man of the people. You walk around. You talk to Democrats. You talk to Republicans. You talk to everybody. Does voting rights even rank in the top 10 issues people are concerned about in this country?
No, but it is the voting rights. It's not the rights per se. They know they're going to lose. I think the numbers we had were 85 seats in the House. That's the number they're going to lose. In the Senate, we're looking at a few seats. But they know they can't control power. So they're going to attempt anything they can to nationalize the voting rights of federal elections. And I know they'll fail, but they're looking for the next thing that they can build on attached to January 6th. Yeah. The voting rights have to go with an overthrown Trump's lies and the insurrection. So they're trying to commingle all that and see if they can make fodder out of Trump, have more people arrested. Now they've got U.S. congressmen, as you know, and text messages and all this information from the communications like AT&T and from the congressman. And so they're looking to make stuff up with all that. And with that comes the false sense that we need our election integrity so that the insurrection doesn't happen again, because that may happen again. So everything they're going to move toward is investigation on January 6th, voting rights, and including the Supreme Court, I believe. Yep. I think that's where they got nothing left. I mean, that's all. They don't even have racism anymore.
Yeah, no one even cares when they go, you're racist. Like that Congressman Bowman. He called Manchin a racist. People just shrug their shoulders and laugh about it now because they know it's a joke.
The racist thing is over. They don't have that anymore. The Me Too movement is getting crushed right now with Ghislaine, with the way they've just zipped up that thing and put a blanket on that whole investigation. I mean, the cover-up is insane, the incriminated people. So there's a lot of anxiety going on, Epstein and her and all that. I don't usually get into those topics, but it's amazing to have watched all the black books, all the information being taken out by the judge and the FBI, so no one can see everything on everyone who was anyone, not just on the island, et cetera. And that has been the big thing that nobody wants to talk about, in juxtaposition to, the young kid, Kyle.
Yeah, right.
Just they're throwing us little stuff like that. But that, I believe that would take down giants. And so there's been a major cover-up, including Hillary and all that, to do with it. And it's not, again, I'm not into any of that conspiracy, but I do believe when I watch the judge cover that black book and all that, that said, there's a lot of people have a sigh of relief right now.
Yeah, you're right about that. You mentioned voting rights. Okay, I think it's all about the Democrats trying to push through some type of filibuster report. I don't think they give a rat's ass about voting rights because they know with the filibuster in place, that bill's going nowhere. And again, Democrats continually lie to their base. So knowing it's not going to go anywhere, they're going to try to push Manchin and Sinema into some type of filibuster reform on voting rights to federalize that. Joe, I don't think they're going to be successful. And I think the average American's looking at this going, what are these bozos doing? They're talking about climate. They're talking about voting rights. They're talking about crap I don't even care about. Do something to get price of gasoline down and get the price of groceries down and get the price of rent down. Then you got my attention.
Well, one of the other reasons they're doing the voting rights beyond that, if you look at it in the 3D chess, is that the federal elections, and if you combine the federal elections with Herschel Walker running, yep, Stacey Abrams running in Arizona, if they can make it look as though the Supreme Court is going to interfere in voting rights, as they fear the Supreme Court is going to interfere with abortion right now, they've got the Supreme Court being set up with these issues that they're doing. One of them could be voting rights. It's going to end up going to the Supreme Court. So your attack, as you spoke about on the Supreme Court by Schumer, is again, these are gangplanks that they're setting up. Whether they want them, believe in them or not, they're all ways to keep MoveOn.org, keep all these organizations getting fed with money. And I'm getting emails from all those organizations. I got, fake names in there, and they send me stuff, and I see what they're talking about. MoveOn just activated 2 months ago, and it's all about the Supreme Court. It's all about insurrection. And so this whole push is in order to get a soundbite for 2024, which would be, we need to stack the Supreme Court truthfully, because these last 3 rulings are unconscionable at the Supreme Court.
Oh, and they're going to lose some big ones in 2022. There's no question.
That's really what you're doing.
Yeah, I concur with you. What do you make of Biden's poll numbers now? I mean, you and I have talked about this endlessly for months. He's really hitting new lows right now, particularly among Hispanics. I've never seen the numbers that low ever, and independents have just gone away from him.
I think the numbers would be even worse if they didn't have sympathy for realizing he definitely has dementia, age, disabilities, et cetera. Beyond all the nonsense he says it's getting hard I've talked to a lot of people, it's getting hard for them to watch, never mind voting for him. It's not the person. Most people knew. They didn't see Joe in the basement for the year. But most people did remember Joe being really sharp. Whatever you liked what he said, if he was lying and dropping bombs, it still was, he was sharp. They didn't know that. And that, as the country's following it, and he's yelling more like he yelled yesterday, they're realizing he has old man syndrome. They don't know they know that he shouldn't be president when they look at Kamala. So that is really bothering a lot of people. What if we have a problem? What if Russia invades Ukraine in the next three weeks? What's going to happen with this leader? Can he even handle? And so there's a lot of people that aren't talking about it, but the numbers would be lower if they didn't feel sympathy for him.
I think you're right about that. And when you go through these, Hispanics, 33% approve, 65% don't. That's monumental. Independents, 30% approval, almost 70% disapproval among independents. Joe Visconti, you cannot win elections in 2022 if you're a Democrat, and 2/3 of independent voters do not trust Democrats. I mean, you can appease the far left-wing, radical, wacko, angry people all you want. You're not going to win elections with those people other than the deepest of blue districts.
Yeah, I think it was four congressmen aren't running for re-election under Nancy right now. That popped up a couple of days ago. And that number's lining up, kind of like the way when Trump ran, a lot of Republicans retired in 2018, didn't run for office, which is why they made a move. So you're going to see congressmen walk away more and more. They've lost the House hands down. They'll lose the Senate. And in their desperation, the only thing I fear is in their desperation, watching that coming, there's no way to correct this. Our problem is there's no way to correct the economy. He's put us on a path that isn't correctable at this point.
Yeah, a lot of issues out there for sure, Joe.
Yeah, you can't see how China is going to help us. You can't see how any of the factors or anything can work out with our economy. You can't see the ports opening up, the COVID lockdowns, and so we're really in a beyond politics. Politics is policymaking. Beyond that, I think we're really in a time when every American needs to step up, not like the Tea Party, but step up individually and really call their Congress people as they're starting to do and say, "This is it. We're done with this. We need to change." And I think we're really there. We on the right can beat it up all day long, but it's beyond. It's like you have a severely autistic child and you're in the old days and you're hitting them like some kid on the playground. You just can't. You can't do it at any good conscience. You know what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, something you said earlier when you said people had a memory of Biden where they thought he was a decent guy, an affable type guy, sort of harmless. And when he stayed in the basement for a year in the campaign, and when he finally emerged from it, people are realizing the hard left has a big influence on this guy. Joe, evidence, now they're pushing him to, forgive more student loans. That the student loan repayment plan was supposed to start February 1st. Now, far left-wing radicals are saying, hey, you defer it further. Oh, wait a minute. This was put in place by Trump, okay? Trump extended it during the pandemic. It almost seems, Joe Visconti, like Democrats and the far left-wing radicals, they try to use the pandemic for every one of their social fantasies. And this idea of just deferring or relieving student debt, the American people don't want that. That's unpopular by like 65%. And yet here Biden's thinking about it right after losing Build Back Better.
Well, the economy itself is an engine, as we all know, and it's expanding. It really is expanding, even through all of what's going on. People are frustrated. People are moving back in. Young people with their parents. To college. So there's been a monkey wrench sent into every institution, every way of life, social way we've had, and yet the economy continues to expand.
Oh yeah.
Our problem really is that the public can't find a way psychologically to feel safe. And everyone I talk to feels like that. They don't feel safe, and there's always precautions because of COVID, truthful or not.
Well, it's a combination, isn't it, Joe? COVID, inflation, crime. I mean.
So you've got the crime at you, you've got the COVID coming at you, you've got the inflation, taxes are going through the roof, property taxes are insane because real estate's going through the roof. That's a benefit for local taxation.
Right.
Our town, I just went up $1,000 in my house. It's just like you go with $1,000 a year like nothing anymore.
Right.
In the north, so you have that. You have an exodus. I noticed in Florida. I was down there for 10 days. My God, you can't go anywhere down there. It's just everyone in the world is getting out of the Northeast. These are ghost towns. I'm looking in Hartford here right now. They're ghost towns. There people live here, but it's a ghost town. There's no social activity. And so more and more people have, and I think they're going to overcome this. I think the wave of fear, like a war, like we lived during wartime, Second World War before we were born, Korean War, where people cried, families, members were worried. We are in wartime. It's a strange war.
Yeah, it really is.
Fear in our minds, fear in our heart, uncertainties, doubts. The problem is there's no trust of FDR. There's no trust of Kennedy, gets you through the Cuban Missile Crisis. There's no faith in leadership. That is our real big problem. That's what Trump gave, like him or not.
Yeah, there's no question about that, Joe. You're spot on.
Black hole. Joe Biden is the black hole, and Trump was the sun, of confidence.
Hey,
no, really.
You were talking about the economy. Real estate prices, houses, real estate prices, average price in America now is just under $360,000. That's the average. Prices jumped 14% last year. And where we're really seeing the escalation, Joe, is in the higher end. $500,000 to $750,000 houses are up like 30%. You buy a house $1 million or more, it's up 50%. But where people are suffering is in single family homes worth less than 250. Those are down like almost 20%. So higher end is going up, lower end is going down. Most people aren't in the higher end. And so people are not only getting crushed by inflation, some of the lower end ones are seeing values go down. And then you top that off, inflation's like taxation without legislation. It really crushes middle class and lower income people.
Yeah, this is a very strange time for a lot of people, a lot of economic classes. People are having a hard time, as we all know. It's Christmas. I just want to say, keep the Christmas spirit going, and we need to keep going emotionally, even if we're fighting the Democrats and what they're doing. But it's hard to fight them because there's nothing that you're really fighting. You're shadow boxing just something that's out there animated, and there's no substance to it. So this is the frustration for politicians. It's a frustration for for everyday business people. But if I have one caveat for everything, it's beware of corporate America. Corporate America, I think, is going through a real change, and I think they're going to come out a lot different than they went into this wokeism, into all the things that were plaguing them for the last 4 years, attacking Trump, social media. I think we're going to come out of the dark side of that whole thing. And corporate America has to lead the way with advertisement, et cetera. Yep. That's something you got on your list, but I think we're going to see a different corporate, which is going to be important.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, we're in a situation right now, and I know, look, people like you and I are really optimistic. We see things with a glass, half full. But so many with this, the way that Democrats treat their own voters, the COVID compression, the inflation, the crime, if you're a Democrat, you're not all that happy right now. None of the goodies that you were promised happen. Joe Biden is being compared less favorably than Jimmy Carter. It's hard to believe. You and I were around when Jimmy Carter was president. I can't believe we're seeing a repeat of that. But on the other antithesis of that, though, Joe Visconti, stock market is near record highs. The economy did grow 3.5% in Q4. Most economists are forecasting that we're going to grow next year almost 4%, maybe a little higher. Problem is, if you grow 4%, inflation's running 6%, and your wages are at 4%, you're actually losing a little bit of ground. But overall, the United States economy, as a result of the Fed buying a lot of bonds and us pumping $6 trillion into the economy over the past 2 years because of COVID, the economy should do pretty well, Joe Visconti, in 2022. I think there's reason to be optimistic.
I do too. That's why I mentioned earlier. I think we don't stop the purchasing power of the Americans, the growing, especially now the young people want to get back out of the parents' basement. They came home. My daughter came home for COVID out of 8 years out of Manhattan, and we just moved her back 2 weeks ago to Manhattan 3 days a week, remote, and 3 days into the city. But people want to get out. They've all, for safety, for saving money, et cetera, got out. There's been a lot of that disystole of the heart. They're in-breathing, out-breathing. And I think what's going to happen is everybody wants their space. This summer was very telling. Everyone came out. One of the reasons COVID has continued is everyone was really happy this summer. They came out and they got a glimpse of America, or the world is back to normal. That came crashing down with all these different variants. And now they want summer back. They want their country back.
Yeah.
And I think that the living with the reality of ISIS we had to do that with the airports for years and go through TSA. Living through the reality of some of these things will become more normalized and less panic driven, maybe more self-testing, and so that people can relieve themselves. It's the crime that they've got to watch for. And I think as you talked about the crime, what's going on in some of these northern cities, the police are getting funded. It's going back.
We're refunding the police department.
It was a bout of insanity intentionally designed with COVID, et cetera, and all of the voting to really throw Trump out. That's my gut. It was all done. Everything was gamed that could be gamed. And now they got him out. And if they think they can get him arrested on January 6th or whatever, they're breathing right now. I'll just call them the Dark Lords.
Hey, listen, speaking of Trump, in a rare moment of bipartisanship, Biden actually praised Trump yesterday for the development of Operation Warp Speed and the vaccines. And obviously liberal heads were exploding, but Biden did. We give Biden credit when he does the right thing.
Well, he wanted to too, in case these things blow up, as some of them are, he can share the blame.
Right, of course. I got to ask you this. Let's be optimistic for 2022. You've had a lengthy conversation recently with Corey Lewandowski, Trump's confidant, ran his campaign for a while. 2022 is looking very optimistic for Republicans right now, Joe. Joe, handicap, talk about your conversation with Corey. What is his thoughts on the 2022 midterms, both the House, the Senate? Give me your prognostications on that.
Sure. He was actually started off, and maybe we'll get him on your show. He started off with a governorship, believe it or not. The governor's races, the ones that are up, are very important because of the voting rights, all your local powers of a state, right. How it's so important. Something that hit me a little different. And I thought Herschel Walker was the big one on their list. They know Herschel's going to take it. They're also looking at Kemp being primaried by what's his name?
David Perdue.
That's something big. The big news was it South Dakota?
Well, Kristi Noem's South Dakota. I mean, she's fine. She's governor there. Ron DeSantis in Florida. He's not going to lose to.
They're not worried about it. But he did say some of the primaries, like Liz Cheney, happen in May, and so they're all working with PACs and super PACs to beef up those primaries where they won't have to worry once they knock Liz Cheney out, if they're going to lock her out, because they'll win the general anyway. So a lot of people don't know if they want to donate or work on campaigns, and some of these are primary ones that they're the Trump picks versus the establishment picks. So there's that going on. New Hampshire has being redistricted, and they should pick up a seat there. But I'll hook them up so we can get a show and a handicap with you and for your audience, every detail that they're working on. They do know, which Boris Epstein had spoken to me about, he's inside, that they've got 85 seats in the House that they know they're taking. And they can get 75, but the 85 is their magic number. And
85, Joe, that's like 25 more than the most optimistic I've heard, but that's internal polling that you're aware of.
That's including the redistricting also. We'll
pick up with the okay. Because you've had 24 Democrats announce their retirements now.
Right. It's a bloodbath, which we're all worried about what the Democrats will allow this summer, et cetera, that could happen to try to cause some type of chaos, because we can't see them walking the whole year knowing they're going to lose all that power. And what could they do to stop it, thwart it? This is where I give you your federal elections where they could, and it's really for the swing states. And we talked about the swing states with Corey also. That was important. They're looking at Nevada, taking Nevada, and of course Arizona, places you wouldn't think. And he fought the fight in Pennsylvania. He was right on the ground during the Pennsylvania.
Yeah, he was.
Contrary to what you want to say, the election wasn't stolen. Well, 144,000 votes were the difference in 6 states.
And, that's the difference.
Yeah, another thing is very important for people listening to understand. We on the right, we're Americans. We don't want African Americans or Latino Americans who may not show, and many don't in person, to have voted by mail. We're not against if they have large numbers to vote by mail. What people don't want is ballot harvesting.
Right.
They don't want drop boxes with people walking in with tractor trailers moving ballots across state lines. All the stuff we know that happened, those abuses, or Zuckerberg dropping $40 million into not-for-profits to get out the vote in the backdoor area. So there's interference and there's dark money, and all the anomalies collectively are what people on the right are upset. But if we had a loss because there's more, let's just call it African Americans, trying to say we're racist to keep them out of voting, because many don't like to show up, but they did vote. And so there was an increase of African American vote. But we're not against that. And this is really the message that's got to come out from the right, that we want everyone to vote. We just don't want ballot harvesting. We don't want people manipulating the drop boxes, right. All that nonsense that we saw, which leads to fake ballots and everything we.
One thing, Joe, that's come out, 85% of all Americans, it doesn't matter whether you're white, African American, Latino, woman, male, straight, gay, 85% of Americans are okay with a picture voter ID to vote. People are comfortable with that because everywhere in America you go, you want to get on a plane, train, whatever, present a credit card, they ask you for an ID. Go to a bank, make a withdrawal. I mean, People have to have IDs in this country. And
especially when you're seeing all of the credit card fraud,
yeah,
all of the stealing of identity. This is on the news and on advertisements all day long. But the American public hasn't connected all they know from that criminal enterprise, in saying that can happen in voting. And it sure can. And so, but we'll be blamed for anything we try to do to block the federalization of this, because they're going to pitch it with the media as though the federal elections should be handled in Hartford or California. It's the state. This is the Constitution. It's not going to hold water. It won't get past the Supreme Court anyway, but they don't care as long as they blame, at the end of the day, the Supreme Court going into the 20.
Because they want to have the narrative that Republicans, the big bad Republicans who are a minority in the country, are dictating policy, blah, blah, blah. You can just connect the dots. And you're probably right. That they're going to get, the old saying, a wounded animal is the most dangerous animal. And you're going to see Democrats are wounded heading into 2020. They'll be lashing out. They'll be trying all kind of garbage. And their allies in the propaganda arm, the media, will support them regular way. The question is, in my mind, is all this stuff happening, which way does Biden go? Does he try to triangulate back to the center? I have my doubts. I think he's going to be controlled by the left, and I really wish he would come to the center. That's where most Americans would like to see him. I don't think it's going to happen, Joe.
Let's get back to Georgia, a place you know well.
Yep.
Herschel Walker, Perdue, Kemp, Stacey Abrams. I'll ask you to handicap.
Okay.
Does Perdue hurt Kemp at the end of the day if he beats him in a primary? Does that mess it up for Walker against Abrams?
I think,
how's it looking?
Yeah, I'll give you my take because I've talked to a lot of people in Georgia. I think Herschel Walker will defeat Raphael Warnock. It will be the most expensive Senate race in the history of the state of Georgia. Warnock is a radical leftist. People in Georgia see that. The demographics have changed, but according to Matt Stout, our election guy on the ground in Georgia, Herschel Walker has an excellent chance to unseat Raphael Warnock because Herschel Walker is a proven success. He's a conservative. It cuts across race lines. Herschel Walker, I think, beats Warnock. I think we got a problem in the governor's race because Kemp was headed, I think, to beat Abrams. Now, obviously, Kemp and Trump don't get along. David Perdue is going to be challenging Kemp in the primary. At this point, I can't handicap which way that primary is going to go. Regardless of whether Kemp wins or Perdue wins, it is going to split the Republican Party. Probably it's going to be a very tight primary. I question whether we can recover from that to run against Stacey Abrams because Kemp only beat her by 50,000 votes the last time. So this is one where I really wish Trump had let it alone and not encouraged David Perdue to run, but he didn't. And Perdue is going to run. And look, a lot of people feel a Republican primary is healthy. I'm not in that camp. I think that Kemp would have won. I don't agree with him on everything, but hey, despite the voting issue, I remember back when the pandemic started, Kemp was the first governor to go out there and open up his state. He withstood withering criticism from the media. And at that time, Trump was an ally of Kemp. It's a shame. And I'm concerned about it.
When is the primary?
I don't know the exact date of that primary. I'm guessing it's probably August, maybe June, somewhere around there.
As long as Perdue, I think, does not do I don't know much, but it looks like a gentleman that's not going to run a dirty race.
We can say that now in December. I just have my concerns, Joe. I mean, that's a really important governorship. And I think absent Perdue, look, I like David Perdue. He was a great senator. He should have won he did win on election night, but he came within 0.3% of getting to the 50%, which means he wouldn't have had to have a runoff. But he did. Ossoff beat him because of, Republicans didn't turn out. I think Republicans will turn out this time, and all polls indicated. It's just the question, will Perdue and Kemp so fracture the Republican vote in the primary that whoever loses may not get behind the winner? I would encourage whoever loses that the day after that race to solidly get behind the winner. That's the only way we're going to beat Stacey Abrams in Georgia.
And then Walker will have to be the fence mender. Herschel Walker will have to be the fence mender.
Yeah, and I think Herschel Walker can beat Warnock.
A big task. he'll have a big task to do because that's a general election race.
Oh yeah, there's no question about it. But I see a lot of favorable things on the Senate side, Joe, to answer your question. I think there's a lot of Senate seats that we're going to perform very well in. I don't know if we're going to take 85 House seats, but in my view, if we take anywhere 40, 50 of them, I'm a happy camper. The more, the better. But if we do that and McCarthy's speaker, all this possible bad legislation goes away, I think we're going to pick up 2, 3, 4 seats in the Senate. The country's going to look dramatically different come November of 2022. And look, that's another reason, Joe, I'm very optimistic. I think we're going to have a good economy next year. I don't see anything, today policy-wise. Biden may try some executive orders, maybe defer some student debt, maybe try to cut this bill down. But radically shaping the country, which is what I feared with that Build Back Better, I think we've sort of dodged the bullet on that right now.
Yeah. Well, then it becomes external factors, international affairs. Yeah. That could be things that pop up. And that's where, again, there's not a lot of faith in Biden right now for any pop-up issues across the globe. Yeah. We're talking domestic.
I don't think the Chinese will do anything till after the Beijing Olympics. I mean, they're putting pressure on Taiwan. I don't see that happening. The real question is, what does Putin do with Ukraine? That's a biggie. Yeah. And what's the response?
Yeah, that's. I feel he makes a move. I can't see him bluffing that long. Russians don't bluff that long. But no. Why? What's the importance of it? What is? And also the bomb that they're working on. There's new reports in Iran. They're pushing forward. So anyway, some of that stuff, if it can be contained, they don't have a lot on the table except for spontaneous riots from other people being killed. If they want to run that movie again, there's not much that we haven't seen. But I think the country has learned its lesson. It's gone through these tantrums, a lot of tantrums in 5 years, most of them fake and bogus, but tantrums no less. And I just don't know how far CNN and MSNBC can sink in their ratings in all of their top, show title showmen going down.
Well, rightfully so. I mean, they've been a disservice to the American public for a long time, and it's about time that happened. Hey, Joe, we got 1 minute left. Close it out for me, baby. You got 1 minute. You're always optimistic on the closeout. I know you're going to have a great holiday, and I may end up seeing you in Florida if you come down there. I'm going to be down there in January.
I'll definitely be down. We'll be hooking up. I'll be doing some shows down there. It's a good time to be alive. We've been able to witness some very strange things. Our country's been tested. The rule of law has been tested. Many things that we never thought we'd see, not just because of Trump. A lot of things that occurred, the doxing, the canceling, and we're still standing here. The public's still saying no. We still have our guns and a right to protect ourselves. It's been a heck of a 5 years, going on 6. And I think that was something that America didn't intend, but America, we're all part of it. And so we're going to come through this, and people are really going to start saying, I don't care. I want to live my life. Yep. I love my family and I love my country, and get out of my way. And I don't want to hear that nonsense anymore. People are not going to tolerate nonsense anymore. That's what it really is. Yep. And the authority figures at every level, corporate America, news media, academia, big tech, all of it, they've been knocked down a notch by their own demise. And so the American people will rise up as they are and say, we're going to have a beautiful Christmas, holidays, New Year's, and we're going to launch the year good. I feel really good.
Yeah, I do too. Joe, thank you for coming on the show many times during the year. I love having our conversations. Your views are spot on, and I look forward to catching you in Florida when we're down there in January. Thanks for joining me today. Hey, folks, listen, that's it for today. Hey, listen, I want to thank everyone for viewing and listening this year. I'm going to be flying tomorrow. Jeffrey Dunitz is going to be hosting tomorrow. I'm going to try to dial in from Chicago tomorrow on my way back east. I've got a layover connection, so we'll try to hook up then. But for those of you who watch us, we're very grateful for that. For those listening on the podcast, we thank you. We're very optimistic on America heading into 2022. We think that we're going to get through this COVID, we're going to grow the economy, and it's going to be a great November, and the country will be restored and moving in the right direction. That's it for today. Have a good evening. Thanks for viewing. We will talk to you tomorrow.